if you're not Catholic, you might be listening to this saying, wait, you keep saying 73. But I know my Bible only has 66 books. There's only 66 books that are in the Bible. And I'd say, yeah, it's really interesting. The story behind that whole thing is, well, in like 1517, 1520, somewhere in there, Martin Luther is doing his thing. And, I think it's fascinating that from 1517 to 1520, Martin Luther was quoting those 7 books. We call them the Deuterocanonical books, those 7 books that Martin Luther took out of the Bible or removed them in the Bible. He was still quoting them as scripture. It wasn't until the year 1520 that Martin Luther was in a debate with a German theologian, a priest named Johann Eck, where they're debating on the efficacy of the Mass. That Johann Eck was saying that no, the Mass does something. Mass actually, it's not just a memorial, it actually is a sacrifice we're offering to the Father, and it gives us grace. It's incredible. And Martin Luther says, no, I don't believe that it does anything. He says, well, are you kidding me, Johann Eck? I'm paraphrasing. Also, they were speaking German, and I don't know this. But he said, but we offer Mass for those who are dead. And Martin Luther says, I don't believe in offering Mass for those who are dead. He said, what about purgatory? And Martin Luther says, I don't believe in purgatory. And Johann Eck says, what about 2 Maccabees chapter 12, where it says it's a good and holy thing to pray for the dead? And in that moment, Martin Luther removed, or at least merely moved, those 7 books from the Bible. And it's interesting because why? Because it didn't fit with his theology. And he appealed to this. He appealed to the Jewish canon, the Jewish list of scriptures that wasn't developed until a couple hundred years after Jesus. Well, 100 to 200 years after the time of Jesus. And he appealed to the Jewish canon that doesn't have those 7 books as considered divinely inspired. But here's an interesting thing. At the time of Jesus, there wasn't actually an established Jewish canon. At the time of Jesus, there were different groups that believed that different books, should be in the Bible, some shouldn't be. I mean, we even know the story of the Sadducees, right? The Sadducees, they only believed the first 5 books of Moses should be in the Bible. They didn't take the others as divinely inspired. The Essenes, the people who lived in the Dead Sea area, they believed that they had a bunch of books that they might have considered divinely inspired. What books were divinely inspired at the time of Jesus was still a debated topic. And actually, the Jewish rabbis did not settle upon an established canon until 100, 200 years after the time of Christ. And that's the list to which Martin Luther appealed. But you think about this, that canon was established by who? It was established by Jews who had rejected Jesus as the Messiah. So they don't have no authority. It wasn't until the Catholic Church in the year 382 in the Council of Rome, and then again 397, Council of Carthage, and then later on, because Martin Luther had taken those 7 books out in the Council of Trent, had said, no, these are the 73 books. And this is one of the saddest things. One of the saddest things is when I did the Bible in a year, we had a bunch of people who are not Catholic. Maybe you're part of that group, that they lived their whole lives not realizing that God had given them 7 extra books that one guy in Germany years ago took out. That actually to realize that all 73 books are part of your inheritance. What God has wanted you to have your entire life are all 73 books.